Greetings everyone. Before we continue our comprehension of the Quran, it is imperative to have a look at the situation and whereabouts of the region that required the reform. This podcast is the first part of the series dedicated to the philosophy of the Quran to reform a society according to its prevailing circumstances. The globality and divinity of the Quran makes it indispensable to understand and analyze the social and political environment in which the Quran was revealed and implemented. The prophets were not supernatural entities to make this conversion happen within the wink of an eye. Reformation is a thoughtful process that was carried out on political grounds explained by the Quran itself as هُوَ الَّذِي بَعَثَ فِي الْأُمِّيِّينَ رَسُولًا مِّنْهُمْ يَتْلُو عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتِهِ وَيُزَكِّيهِمْ وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةَ وَإِنْ كَانُوا مِنْ قَبْلُ لَفِي ضَلَالٍ مُبِينٍ, which means representatives were appointed among masses from within themselves to explain the footprints, purify the thought process, and educate them from books insightfully when the prevailing processes showed obvious disorientation. Hence, it is absolutely important to understand the process and the prevailing conditions and the conceptual footprints of the policy reforms programmed in the nature that the prophets were supposed to explain by yatlu alayhim ayatihi. This is what we are looking at first in this podcast, part 1 of the phrase we recited from Surah Jummah, verse 2, about what the prophets started with. I am obliged to the contributions of Mr. Muhammad Salim Abdi, who is an educationist and an academic, for all contributions towards this series of slides. We start with defining the politics. What is politics? It is the union set of all the activities through which a society tends to establish justice and peace within itself. As a result, members of the society make the best use of their abilities to employ available resources for collective development. Every person gets equal opportunities for a free thought process. Consequently, the overall creative thinking of the society flourishes, resulting in the emergence of new fields of knowledge and technology. It is undeniable that creativity thrives only in an atmosphere of peace. And then values that promote love, respect, blissfulness, and healthy competition are cultivated. And then if we look at prophethood, then apparently there is no difference between the objectivity of politics and of the prophethood. The main purpose of prophethood is also to create a balance in social relations. A politician visualizes the above activities that we just defined and formulates rules and policies to implement them, for which they have the state power, which means court, police, and army to enforce law, which definitely requires an exemplary demonstration, as we have seen in the prophethood. Now, to step into the field of politics, it is necessary that politicians, number one, are fully aware of the contemporary national and international political, social, and economic environments, and have a grasp on the material and human resources of the region. And they must possess a high level of cognizance and be capable of formulating policies that could ensure an advancing society in the above sense. And also they are righteous and trustworthy. They can focus on the welfare of the people only, negating their own selves, which means we can expect from a politician to be highly knowledgeable in politics, in social values, in economical developmental tasks, not just in the world around them, but also in the world inside the environment they are working in. And we also expect them to be highly insightful for the requirements of the society and the requirements of the advancements in the society. What is right? And this should be all beyond their personal interests. Their whole focus must be the collective interest. And people with these qualities do not do just politics. They actually render service to God as identified in the Quran in the name of Hukukul Ibad. This means that it is indispensable for a prophet as well to possess all the above mentioned qualities. The religion claims that whenever God sent a prophet for the reformation of a society, they were adorned with all the above qualities. How? Because they were enriched with knowledge and scholarship. That included Yatlu alayhim ayatehi as the first part of the verse, which means they had to explain God's footprints all over the universe. And for that, one needs a comprehensive knowledge of science, technology, administration, relationships, politics, economics, administration, and whatnot. The second part of the phrase says, يُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةَ. They had to educate people from books with an insightfulness, with a deeper understanding, with a deeper explanation of how people or societies can undergo advancement. They understood their requirements. They were capable of establishing justice, and not only within their own nations, but also with the nations around them. Hence, the prophets had a clear guidance to make laws to reform their respective societies nationally and internationally, and those set of laws are called Sharia. There is an important point to ponder. Prophet Moses, Prophet Jesus, and Prophet Mohammad, also called Mustafa, the selected, they had not inherited the state power to enforce their laws. The power they used to make their nations powerful was the power of faith. That included knowledge, scholarship, and justice, and they used this power to form and govern the power of the state, which means implementation, monitoring, and defense of the power of faith. A great philosopher and scholar, Allama Iqbal, said, "Juda ho di siyasat se, to reh jati hai changezi." If politics is detached from faith, which is knowledge, scholarship, and justice, the only thing left is dictatorship, which is the absence of all the above powers. Now this clarifies some very clear rules of leadership, because leaders have to be obeyed, leaders have to be followed, as explained in verse 59 of chapter 4, Ati'ullaha wa ati'ur rasula wa ulil amr. Now the chronology of obedience is very clear in this verse. First comes Allah, then comes Rasul, and then comes the leader, who is called Ulil Amr Minkum, from among the people. So the top authority stays with Allah. Everything comes later. Then the authority of the Prophet comes in, who are God's representatives. And then comes the Ulil Amr, the leaders, who must be satisfying the above two criteria. So they must be obeying God and they must be obeying the Prophet. Then they are capable of being called Ulil Amr. They must be Prophet's representatives. And how their representation is established is by their scholarship, which must be comprehensive to explain God's footprints in the universe, as we explained before. They must have the capability of showing exemplary justice as shown by their prophet and as explained in the book. And on top of it comes evaluation and accountability for everyone. No one is above law, including lawmakers. Hence, the eligibility of leadership or being an ulil amr comes with their belief in the existence and authority of God alone, their belief in evaluation and accountability, and if these two concepts are deemed in the society by every person in hold of the power and of the people, then there will be no obstacle in achieving the goals of politics as well as of the prophethood. In our next podcast, part 2 of the series, we will explain the prevailing conditions of the society when the Quran was revealed, and the political reforms that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, took in the light of what is said in the Quran that doesn't need any further explanation after we look at the character of Prophet Muhammad as a prophet as well as a politician. And in the end, I will take this opportunity for a gentle reminder that this channel is an effort to think out of the box of the traditional mindset about the God, religion, mankind triangle, and widen the span of questions that consistently arise in the thinking minds. So please subscribe, share, and leave constructive feedback to make it better. Thank you so much for listening to me.